Welcome to Reading for Today. I am going to share my screen and we are going to watch a video about coming to discussions prepared, what it looks like when you're unprepared, what it looks like for you to be prepared. And this is all so that we are ready for having a discussion about the narratives of Frederick Douglass. So I'm going to play the video. And then after the video, you will also have a text to make note of the expectations for discussions. Let's make sure. Let me try that again. Stop. Make sure the sound is being shared. There we go.
Imagine you're an 8th grader, waiting for your English class to start. You've got a big problem. You haven't read the material your teacher has assigned, and you know there will be a class discussion today. You'll likely get called on to share your thoughts, and you won't have any idea what to say. You've only had one frantic conversation with the person sitting next to you, who isn't being very forthcoming with information. This classmate tells you that you should have come to the class prepared for the discussion. Maybe your classmate has a point. This lesson looks at how to be better prepared next time, including what to do beyond the basics of what's assigned. The first tip to be better prepared might seem like a no-brainer. Follow the guidelines provided to you by your teacher or other leader who has proposed a discussion. If your teacher has been clear with the required work, you'll need to set aside study time to follow through on this. What about when the guidelines for preparation are fuzzy? In this case, it's critical to clarify what your teacher expects from you. Are you expected to read a text thoroughly, or only portions? Are there supporting materials to read as well, beyond just the main text? If your teacher has provided reading or study questions, refer to those as you work outside of class. At a college level, and even sometimes for younger students, you may also be assigned a class preparation assignment, which could even be graded. This type of assignment ensures you do the required reading and tasks before you even head into class. So let's say that you read the material as prescribed by your teacher. You even had some good ideas while you were doing your work. Now, it's the start of class, and you can't remember anything about those great ideas. You remember bits and pieces, but if the teacher calls on you to share your thoughts, there's not a lot that comes to mind. To remedy this scenario, take some time before a discussion to consider what you would like to contribute based on the work you've done. After all, you've put energy into absorbing the information. Now is your chance to give your own perspective on that material. Let's say that you've read a short story for your English class. How might you come to class ready to talk about your thoughts on it? As you read, consider taking notes of what springs to mind, and maybe even note the page number so you can refer back to these parts quickly. These notes could be on paper or electronic, depending on what's allowed by the discussion leader. Here are some examples of things you might note as they relate to a short story. Page 18. The author uses a lot of imagery related to animals and nature, even though the story is about two friends living in the city. Could this be important? Here, you've noted a theme you noticed, even if you are not yet sure what it means. Page 22. The dialogue starts to get tense between the two main characters. This happens very fast, though I'm not sure why. Ask about this in class. Here, you've recognized a shift in tone and dialogue. You may not understand what has happened to create this tension, but it's a great starting point for discussion with others. Page 25 to 28. The ending left a lot of questions unanswered. I wondered whether the main characters would ever resolve their disagreement, or if the friendship was over forever. Here, you've identified questions that go beyond the text itself, allowing your imagination to carry on past the work of the author. Coming to a discussion prepared doesn't necessarily mean that you have all of the answers. Often, it means you gave some thought to what you read and have ideas about the text, but you're also hoping to learn more from others in the discussion. When you have the opportunity to share your point of view, you'll want to cite evidence. Evidence here doesn't mean the smoking gun at the scene of a crime. Instead, evidence means supporting details or proof from the text that backs up your point of view. Evidence, as it relates to most discussions, could be any of the following. In an English class, referring to a quote from the short story to demonstrate the perspective of a character. In a history class, citing a Supreme Court decision to give an example of a historical trend. In a science class, mentioning the outcome of an experiment and how it supports a particular theory. Why is evidence so important? Imagine your classmate giving their opinion about the short story by saying, "The author seemed to change the tone at some point during the story. It was kind of strange, but I don't remember what was happening or when that occurred." A different approach would be to cite a specific paragraph where the author shifted the tone and give examples of the back-and-forth dialogue where the two main characters get into a very heated discussion. Being specific about this textual evidence creates room for further discussion. Others can look at those same details and respond. In our example, we've used a short story as the source of your evidence in an English class. In other situations, you may have more evidence available to you. Visual evidence could include photographs, illustrations, videos, charts, graphs, and any other visual media. For example, if you wanted to discuss the impact of taxes on tea in the British colonies, you could point to how the colonists showed their feelings on this in political cartoons of the time. Your textbook on this subject might even have a graph that shows the fluctuations in tea taxes, with dollar values on one axis and dates on another to reflect the trends. The graph is a good example of visual evidence. It's also a type of quantitative evidence, or data that can be expressed in numbers and specific details that help clarify exactly how much something occurred, or when it occurred. Here's a tip. It can help to remember the term quantitative by thinking of how a quantity relates to numbers. You may also cite oral evidence, such as a detail expressed by your teacher about the nature of taxes on tea. For instance, you might refer back to your teacher's comment about the colonists' level of dissatisfaction when you describe why you think the Boston Tea Party occurred. Oral testimony could also include statements and quotes from historical figures. For example, like colonists of the time saying, "Taxation without representation is tyranny." All right, let's take a moment to review what we've learned in this lesson. When preparing for a discussion on a topic or text, first, understand what's expected of you by the leader of the discussion. You may also be assigned a class preparation assignment, which ensures you do the required reading and tasks before you head into class. As you follow the guidelines, consider taking notes on what you notice and including a reference for how to return to the point where you had your realization. You will not have all of the answers, but you can use these notes as a way to engage the ideas of others. In addition, be ready to give evidence, which means supporting details or proof from the text that backs up your point of view. You need to be ready to give evidence for your perspective by citing quotes, examples, and sections of text. Beyond the written word, you can aim to use visual evidence, including media like photographs or cartoons, and quantitative evidence, or data that can be expressed in numbers and specific details that help clarify exactly how much something occurred or when it occurred. Examples of quantitative evidence can be graphs and specific numbers related to the topic. Consider also using oral evidence, such as testimony or quotes, from those discussing the topic or text. In the end, if you make use of this evidence and follow the strategies laid out in this lesson, you'll come to your next class discussion ready to give a knockout answer.
Okay, so with this video, my expectation is for you to annotate. So you're making notes about what the video explains to you. And then I would like a summary. So just like we do in a traditional text, I expect you to do that in a video text, okay? I am here for you guys if you need to ask questions, but this is what we're doing today. And then we'll move on to how you are contributing to that discussion tomorrow.